Fakama, elder of the Motunui village of fire, stood on a high cliff overlooking the beach. Far below, Matoran from all over this island were hard at work constructing boats for the long journey back home. But Kama shook his head. Home. It had been so long since any of them had seen it, and the Matoran did not even remember living anywhere but Motunui. Only the 6 village elders recalled when and why they first came to the island, and for thousands of years they had locked that secret away inside themselves. The Turaga turned at the sound of another's approach. It was Tahu Nuva, Toa of Fire, and leader of the heroes of Motunui. "How go the labors, Turaga?" he asked. "Quite well, Toa Tahu. We will soon have enough boats to carry us all back to the island city of Metru. The Pomatoran are at work widening the tunnels so we can carry the boats to the subterranean sea." Tahu nodded as his mind flashed back to the events of the past months. After the final confrontation with Makuta, Master of Shadows, the Toa had discovered a new island far beneath the surface of Motunui. It sat in the center of a silver sea of protodermis, and they could see few details of it from the shore. But Fakama insisted that this place was Metronui, the original home of the Matoran, to which they must return. Even more startling, the Turaga revealed that Metronui had once been home to 6 other Toa, heroes who existed long before Tahu and the others ever appeared. But Fakama had said nothing about the fate of those early Toa metru, or whether they might still be waiting on Metronui. "I have been in council with the other Toa," said Tahu. I have come to ask you to tell us all about this new land, Metronui, if we are going to journey there and protect the Matoran from any threats that might lurk in that place. We must know everything." Fakama turned and walked away from the cliff. "Indeed you must, but I will warn you, Tahu. The tales of Metronui are tales of sacrifice, betrayal, great danger, and yes, heroes as well. Their telling may change much of what you think you know about myself, the other Turaga, and the Matoran you have served all this time." We are prepared for that, Turaga," replied Tahu. "The Toa have gathered at the great temple of Kininui. They wait only for you." "Then let them wait no longer, Tahu." The 7 Toa, Tahu, Kopaka, Gali, Poatu, Onua, Liwa, and Takanua stood silently around the Amaha circle. The Turaga had used that sand pit and the stones within it many times to tell tales of the past and future. The Turaga of Fire placed the stone representing Motunui in the center of the circle and began. "In the time before time, long before any Matoran set foot on the island of Motunui. There was a city of legends. Hear now the first tale of Metru Nui. Kapura walked slowly along the outskirts of the district of Metru, his eyes scanning the ground. Most of the homes and factories in this part of the metro had been abandoned lately, with the residents moving closer to the heart of the district. It was Kapura's job to make sure nothing of importance had been left behind. He paused in front of a massive blackened building that had once housed a forge. Here, construction tools and other equipment had been cast from molten protodermis before being set onto metru for finishing. Now, in the interest of safety, that work had been transferred away from the outskirts by order of the city's elder, Taragaduma. Kapura spotted a staff used in the sport of Kali on the ground and bent down to pick it up, only to discovered the handle was cracked. He walked on. This was an important task, his fellow workers had told him, and important tasks were best done slowly and carefully. Had Kapura looked up, he would have seen the skyline of Metru, home of the makers, cone-shaped factories, scorched by ages of use, stood next to the homes of smiths and crafters. These were the Matoran, who molded protodermis, the substance of which everything on Metru Nui was made, into thousands of shapes and forms. A molten river of raw protodermis ran through the center of the district, drawn from below the city and fed into the great furnace. From there, it traveled to each factory to be turned into masks, tools, and anything else that might be needed. Dominating the skyline was the Colosseum, home to Taragaduma, and the tallest building in all of Metru Nui. For as long as anyone could remember, the sight of the Colosseum had brought a feeling of safety and security to Matoran, but now Kapura counted slowly as he walked. 6, 7, 8, at least 8 of the workers at his factory had vanished lately. Where they disappeared to, and why no one knew, but there were plenty of rumors. The Matoran stopped. Something had moved off to the right. It didn't sound like another Matoran, or even a wild Rahi beast. It was a soft, slithering sound as if something was dragging itself across the ground. The sound grew louder and seemed to multiply. Kapura felt the urge to run, but his feet would not move. He forced himself to turn around and look. 4 thick, blackened, twisted vines were snaking their way out of cracks in the ground, weaving in the air as if momentarily unsure of what to do. Then they wrapped themselves around the empty factory and began to climb, winding around again and again until they covered the building from top to bottom. Kapura's eyes widened as the vines started to squeeze. Solid protodermis crumbled before their strength. The building groaned and cracked, collapsing in on itself in a matter of seconds. As if satisfied, the vines pulled away and began to move toward another structure. It was then that Kapura found his voice, but he could speak only one word, and that in a horrified whisper. More Buzak. In another section of the city, A second Matorn was also thinking about the dreaded Morbuzak plant. The vines had been appearing on the outskirts of the city for some time, wrecking structures and forcing residents to flee. No one knew where they came from or how to stop them. All that was known was that everyone who challenged the Morbuzak vanished, never to be seen again. But this particular Matorn wasn't worried about the damage the plant was causing. Instead, all his attention was focused on a tablet decorated with a most interesting carving the pictures showed. The combined power of 6 discs defeating a gigantic Morbuzak root. Disc, called Kanoka in the Matoran language, were a common sight in Metru. The spears were created in every metru and used primarily for sport as well as for defense against the wild beast called Rahi. Discs found to be of the right purity and power level were forged into Maska power. But the disc in the carving could not simply be any old Kanoka. The Matoran knew these had to be the 6 great discs of legend. Under the picture of each great disc was inscribed the section of the city where it could be found in the name of a Matoran: Nuri, Akhmu, Visola, Tahuti, Ire, and Orkham. When he was done examining the carving, the Matoran turned to Nigdiki, the strange, 4-legged being who had brought it. "What is it I'm supposed to do?"
"I would think it would be obvious,"
hissed Nidiki from the shadows.
"Get the 6 great discs. I don't care how. Then give them to me, and I will take them somewhere safe."
The Matoran frowned. If they truly exist, these are the 6 most powerful Kanoka discs in Metru. They would be beyond price. What do I get out of this?
"You will be well paid, Matarin,"
Nidiki replied, smiling in a particularly nasty way.
"Plus, you get one more benefit. If you're successful, I will come looking for you."
All right. I get the idea. But why is this so important? Even if these Matoran could get their hands on the Great Disc, they wouldn't dare try to stop the Morbuzak themselves.
"It's not Matoran we're worried about,"
came the answer.
"It's so-called heroes. Toa Metru, 6 Toa Metru."
With that, Nidiki was gone. The Matoran watched him go, thinking, 6 Toa Metru? How is that possible? Moments before, they had been Matoran, 6 strangers, each from a different metru, brought together by a plea for help from Toalikon, the hero Metru, now in the heart of the great Timbalinga metru. They had been transformed. Where once 6 Matoran had stood, there now existed 6 new Toa Metru. Wanua, once an archivist, and Onu Metru, and now the Toaver, voiced the thoughts of them all. "Since when are Matoran just zapped into Toa?" Nuju, former seer, and now Toa of Ice, answered. "When uncertain times lie ahead." Vakama, Tom Metru's most skilled mask maker in the new Toa Fire, looked down at his new form. It was hard to believe that this new power had been granted to him, he remembered the city's protector Toa Likan, giving him a powerful artifact called a Toa Stone and a map to a spot in the Great Temple. Then Likan was captured by two strange creatures. One, a four-legged foe, and the other, huge and powerful. Heeding his last wish, Vakama had taken the Toa Stone to the temple, only to run into 5 other Matoran with similar missions. They placed their stones on top of the shrine dedicated to Toa. Before their eyes, the Toa Stones began to pulsate and then rose into the air. Beams of elemental energy shot from them, bathing the Matoran in light, changing them, granting them power. When it was over, the Matoran had become Toa Metru, destined guardians of Metru Nui. But are we ready for this? Am I? Vakama asked himself. He didn't have an answer. The other Toa had begun selecting their tools from a compartment inside the Suva shrine. Vakama looked over what remained and chose a powerful Kanoka disc launcher. It was a larger version of what he had used in the past to play the sport of Koli. The familiarity of it made him feel a little more comfortable in his new body. Mattown, Toe of Air, chuckled.
Nice choice for playing Matoran games, Mask Maker. Hey, look at this.
Anawa, the new Toa Metru of Stone, said. He reached into the tool compartment and emerged with 6 Kanoka discs, each with a different color, and each bore the likeness of a mask of power. But what drew the attention of the new heroes was the mask, matched the ones they now wore. What does it mean? Asked Nokama, Toa Metru Water. Perhaps that were not chosen at random for this, Vakama suggested. Perhaps this is our destiny. What did Toa Likan say we could expect, Vakama? What are we meant to do now that we are Toa? Asked Whenua. Nokama and Anawa drew in closer, anxious to hear the answer as well. He said, Vakama began. Then suddenly his mind was somewhere else. He could see day being consumed by night, Metru Nui collapsing into ruin, then miraculously restored. 6 Kanoka discs flew at him from out of the darkness, forcing him to duck and dodge. They shot past him, then hovered in the air, and unleashed their power on the Morbuzak plant. Before their energies, the plant withered and died. Their task done, the great discs merged together to form a single one of immense power, and then the vision was gone. But the chill inside Vakama told him it had not just been an idle daydream. Metru Nui was destroyed. I saw it. 6 great Kanoka discs were heading right for me, and...
Thanks for dreams sharing,
Mattel said, shaking his head.
No, we must find them. They can defeat the Morbuzak and free the city from danger. That would prove we are worthy to be Toa Metru.
Vakama continued. The others
looked at him, some doubtful, some evidently willing to believe. They had all heard the tales of the Great Disk before. It was said they contained enormous power, but the only clue to their location was that one was hidden in each metru. If the disk were used by someone with good intent, they could change the world for the better. If their user was evil, Metru Nui and all its inhabitants might be erased forever.
Then find them we shall. I saw said Nokama. I saw a carving in the temple that might help us. Something about finding the great disk by seeking the unfamiliar with the familiar, but the rest seemed to be riddles. What do you think, Vakama?
But the toe of fire was not listening. In his mind's eye, he saw 6 Matoran, each with a great disk. He knew their names, but could not see their faces. Worse, the shadows behind them were alive with danger. Vakama could see a pair of fierce red eyes hovering in the darkness, and a 4-legged creature stalking the Matoran. He had seen that figure before in real life, struggling with Toa Likan. Vakama knew how powerful and evil this being was, and the memory made him shudder. Nuri, Okam, Visola, Akmu, Iri, Tahuti, Vakama muttered. They can decipher the riddles. They can help us find the great disk. But beware of a dog hunter who walks on 4 legs. You have spent too much time at the forge fire spitter, answered Anawa. Your head needs cooling down. I trust Vakama, Nokama said. If he believes those 6 Matoran can help us find the disk, then we must seek them out. When we have found them, we will meet back here. Good luck to us all. If my vision is true, thought Vakama, we will need far, far more than luck. The Toa Metrus said their farewells and went their separate ways. Only Nokama and Vakama remained behind, staring up at the great temple. Vakama, do you really think Metru Nui is in danger? Perhaps from something more frightening than the Morbuzak? I know there is darkness coming, Vakama replied. Toa Likan said we had to stop it. He said we had to save the heart of the city. I don't know how or why, but we have been chosen. Then may the great beings protect us all, said the Toa.